everyone. Welcome to today's Variety Hour. After a month off, because everyone was at ICCB and a slew of summer events, so we had last month off, and so we're really excited to see everyone again. Today we have four wonderful speakers talking about a mix of projects and funding calls and talking about work that they're doing. So we hope you enjoy them as much as we will. We're going to kick off with Elsa, who's going to introduce Gundi. Elsa, do you want to take over?
All right. Hello, everyone. My name is Elsa Roeber, and I am a front-end application engineer for the Gundi project. And I am super excited to talk to you all about Gundi. It's doing a lot of cool stuff for conservation overall. And yeah, let's get into it. So we are calling Gundi the Universal Adaptor for Conservation Technologies. And let's just kind of explore what that really means. So what is Gundi? Gundi is a software tool that is accessed through an online portal. It's free for users, and it has been developed by and for the conservation community. It's really just made to make all of your work easier. I've attached a screenshot on this slide of what the portal looks like, and it's divided into three main sections. Connections, destinations, and sources is kind of the main vocab that Gundi uses. A connection overall is the data flow from a source, and it's sent to a destination. And we'll get more into what the flow of data actually is shortly, but I just want to emphasize that a source is wherever data is coming from in the field, what have you, and a destination is your management software like an Earth Ranger site, Smart Connect, things like that. So that's source versus destination, and together they make a connection. And the reason that we called it a universal adapter is because once a connection is configured through Gundi, sensor data is able to flow from where it originates in the field to a destination system, like I said before, and necessary transformations or things like that happen in our backend to make the data intelligible to your destination system. And why is Gundi impactful? Well, it is very easy to use, and it eliminates a lot of inefficiencies and redundancies that might be happening in the field right now, which are two things that are just good to avoid in general. And I've included these little before and after infographics on this slide before. It was kind of like everyone that had a certain type of device in the field had to figure out for themselves how to export that device data into their destination system. I remember last year at the Earth Ranger conference, we had a lot of people talking to us about like, oh, I have this fence sensor, but I don't know how to export the data into my Earth Ranger site. I have this camera, but I don't know how to use the photos from it. Things like that are just classic examples of how you can configure a connection through Gundi to export the data from your device and get it to where you need it to be easily. And then this after infographic just kind of shows that like once a certain technology type is supported through Gundi, any user that also has that same type of device or source in their projects can create their own instance of a Gundi connection so they can benefit from the integration that we've developed before and just overall mutually benefit each other as we start to support more and more types of technology. So here's an infographic showing kind of what I was mentioning before with the flow of data of a source to a destination. You've got your third-party device, be that fence sensor, water meter, tracking collar, camera, radio, geo events, things like that. That's the third-party source, and all of these things exports data in their own format. None of it is very standardized at all. So with a Gundi connection, the source exports its data within the Gundi portal. That data is transformed into an intelligible format. So then the Gundi portal can send the data, deliver it to the user's destination, whether that be an Earth Ranger site, Smart Connect. Those are just two examples, but several other, really wherever you need it to be, Gundi can deliver it accordingly. Another thing I want to note is that once a connection is configured through Gundi, it's a pretty hands-off service. So once you've got everything entered and the data is flowing where you need it, you don't need to worry about your Gundi connection at all. The portal really only exists to log in, manage, update, and troubleshoot as needed. You won't really need to be worried about logging into Gundi all the time and things like that. It's very low maintenance. Another important thing is that Gundi is not storing any of the data that's flowing. It's just a service that allows you to stream your data where it needs to be. On this next slide, we've got, I wanted to share this list, not to make you read every single of the 50+ bullets on this slide, but to just kind of give you an impression of the scope of the technologies that Gundi is already integrated with and we've already got connections with. So if you're scanning through this list and you see a type of technology that you're currently using, that's a signal that you can already get started with Gundi and configure your first connection and start benefiting from that. Also, if you're looking at this list and you're not seeing something you're using, you can just kind of get an idea of how much we're already impacting, and the more we add to this list, the more we can universally benefit everyone that's using that type of technology. So it really just is kind of going to show how, as more people start to use it, more people can start to benefit. And that's kind of what it's all about with conservation. In addition to physical hardware and sensors, we also have several supported applications. Things like Earth Ranger, Smart Connect, WPS Watch, which I mentioned before. We support geo events and event data like Global Forest Watch and other similar applications. So again, if you see something on this list that you're using, it's a signal that you can start benefiting from a Gundi connection. So how to actually get started, because the Gundi team is currently in a pretty major software update to get the portal much more user-friendly and with some backend improvements as well. The portal is not fully self-service. That is on our roadmap, but in order to get started right now, you will need to reach out to support@earthranger.com, and one of our team members will help you get your first connection configured and make sure you've got the setup done correctly and everything like that. Other things you can do is review our integration catalog. That's a similar list as to what I was showing on the previous two slides, but if you want to look at any of that technology more in depth or just review those past two slides, you can look at our catalog there. Also, if you are interested in requesting an integration with a new technology, you can do that, and our developers can get started helping set up our transformer function, so we'll be able to integrate with your new technology and add that to our supported list. Or if you are a more technologically inclined user, you can review our sensors API if you're interested in developing your own integration and exploring the code that way. That was basically everything I wanted to cover. If anyone has any questions, I think I have maybe a minute left or so, but I can also just monitor the chat.
Yeah, I that was great, Elsa. I'm wondering, I'm curious to know from if I'm a conservationist, like how much am I actually going to interact with Gundi, or is it just going to be behind the scenes, like magic happening and making my life easier without too much integration?
It's
Too
very
much
much
interaction.
behind the scenes. That's a good question. So really all you're interacting with Gundi is setting up the initial connection to make sure you've got just the credentials of your exporting your data and your destination system specified. And once that's all set up within the Gundi portal, you're not going to have to interact with it at all. It's very behind the scenes.
Awesome. And okay, Jess says, because this won't be in the recording, I'm going to read it out for you, Jess. You're serving 500 conservation organizations and processing 600,000 data points a day. That is wild. What do you, what's your big call to action, Elsa? Like, what would you, if you could, who do you most want to hear from? Is it conservation engineers? Is it engineers? Is it people who own data generating things that could be integrated? Who do you want to hear
I
from
think
most?
I think we want to hear from people that are using technology out in the field,
Mhm.
um, that either want to integrate with new technology so we can support new types of devices and stuff like that. And also, it would be great to hear from people that are interested in developing their own integrations for their own purposes out in the field as well, just so we can increase the scope even more and start to connect more data types with more destination types.
Awesome. Okay, if anyone has questions for Elsa or the rest of the team, drop them in the chat. Otherwise, thank you very much.